context of how these debates have been rolling out. As you've been watching this and kind of looking at how things are shaping up, it appears that we'll have Governor DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, and it looks like Chris Christie might finagle away onto the stage. And then, of course, if Mr. Trump decides to participate, then that becomes a very interesting debate stage.
Well, look, I think it's going to be interesting one way or another. I've enjoyed every single debate, but I don't know that they've all gotten the substance out
Yeah.
that I want to see any debate, Republican, Democrat, or, independent, focus on, which are issues that really affect the American people. So I'm really thrilled that whoever comes, I know that News Nation has not only been trying to put together a debate that's interesting to Americans, but they've been engaging Americans on what questions they want to see. There is a link on our website where people can submit their questions. We've got call-in shows, so people can call in and talk to, Chris Cuomo and others about what it is they want to see in this. And so we're really seeing some engagement with voters. And so I'm thrilled that we've got Megyn Kelly, who, of course, has moderated debates before from SiriusXM joining, Elizabeth Vargas, who is an outstanding journalist, who also got RFK Jr. She did a town hall in which it was first reported that he may run as a independent. So she's broken news before. And Ileana Johnson from the Washington Free Beacon. So we've got three incredibly impressive women up there for questions that are going to matter to the American people from the candidates who have deemed it they're worth their time to show up. And I think that's saying something.
Yeah.
If President Trump decides not to show up, then, to me, it reeks of the same arrogance that I remember when I was working with President Obama running against Hillary Clinton. That arrogance took her down.
Yeah.
And similarly, if he decides he doesn't want to show up, I do think that's, it affects people's opinion of him. And that's why you could see some movement that is swaying towards Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis and maybe Chris Christie. Chris Christie supposedly is doing pretty well in New Hampshire. Vivek Ramaswamy also, he's made the debate stage and he's got his people who he's brought to the party. So I think it'll be really interesting for the Republicans.
Yeah, no question. And I'm so glad you brought up the race between President Obama and Hillary Clinton, because I think that's such an interesting look, because it's kind of the same thing. We have so locked into this coronation process, and I think it was the potential coronation of Hillary Clinton that actually created space for you and the team and the Barack Obama campaign to actually do well, have a ground game in Iowa, build it into New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and onward. And I wanted to ask you specifically, with Nikki Haley getting the endorsement of the Koch brothers and Americans for Prosperity, that gives her something that you were a part of for the Obama campaign. And that is that ground game that is so crucial in places like Iowa. I think more than the money, more than the endorsement, I think access to that kind of hit the streets, knock the doors kind of people could be the most important thing for the Haley campaign.
It's interesting, Boyd, because people are reporting this. The Koch network is big. Like, they have email databases. They have people who are devoted to their cause. But I think it may be a little overplayed. I think the stuff that matters more is Nikki Haley is actually bringing over unlikely people in early states that have the experience and the ability to set up an infrastructure. It's late in the game for her to be setting up the infrastructure. And so I want to be clear that I think it's still an uphill challenge, but America loves an underdog. And she's gotten recently some endorsements of, like, particularly there's a woman in Iowa who's been pretty key in Iowa caucus formation, who understands Iowa caucus math, who has recently said she is now supporting Nikki Haley. And that's important. New Hampshire, she's been playing in a while. South Carolina, she's going to need to win because it's her state. But let's be clear that that's a big uphill battle, because South Carolina really has gone for Donald Trump overwhelming numbers in the past, even when other people have endorsed alternative candidates.
Yeah, fascinating stuff and a great perspective as always, Johanna Maska. I know you've got another hit to get onto very quickly, but we're excited for the News Nation debate on the Republican side. And as Johanna told us, a great lineup of moderators: Elizabeth Vargas, Megyn Kelly, Eliana Johnson, and Elizabeth Vargas, I think, is going to be the anchor there that's really going to get to those core crucial questions that are going to be so important to voters. Johanna, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will talk very soon.
Hey, Boyd, thank you so much. And anyone who wants to figure out where they can find this debate just needs to go to joinnn.com, and they can figure out their local channel station. So thank you so much, Boyd.
All right. Thanks, Johanna. That's Johanna Maska, political contributor for News Nation. She's the CEO of the Global Situation Room and host of the podcast Press Advance, and was part of the Obama team, the advance team there, and understands what it takes to actually execute on the ground and make things happen. And I think that's such a vital thing. And it is going to be very interesting. And as you heard from Johanna, there are rumblings coming out that former President Trump is considering showing up. They have asked News Nation, who will be the host of the debate, what is the latest moment that they can give a yes and actually be able to be on that debate stage. So that would upend the apple cart a little bit. It would send a pretty big message and a lot of things to break down in terms of why former President Trump would do that now. Is he getting a little nervous about maybe some of the momentum that Nikki Haley has? Is that the reason that he's suddenly going to say, well, maybe I better show up at a debate and see if he can't counter that a little bit? So a lot of interesting things happening. We'll watch all of that leading up to December 6th. Of course, the debate will be at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and that will be a very interesting and important night for the Republicans. And if you missed earlier in the hour, we actually had independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joined us on the show. You want to check that out on the podcast, and that goes up a little later on this afternoon. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, it's our weekly Inside Sources Inside look at presidential politics. Stick around. We'll be right back.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: Utah State Aggies quarterback Levi Williams is foregoing his senior season in the hope of becoming a Navy SEAL. He explained his decision not to return to college football exclusively with Hans and Scotty on the KSL Sports Zone.
They're the best teams in the world. So just to be, have the ability to possibly be part of that brotherhood and that kind of team would be a great honor.
Williams also says his fiancée fully supports his decision to join the military like his mother and grandparents did. He'll make his last collegiate appearance in the Aggies' upcoming bowl game. The fight over the state flag continues here in Utah. Tracy Halverson working overtime to get a proposed bill on next year's general election ballot.
No one asked for a flag change. No one was upset about our flag, and it should at least be put to a vote.
The group heading this ballot initiative believes restoring Utah's historical flag is what the vast majority of Utahns want. Our top national story this hour from ABC News: George Santos has been expelled from the U.S. House of Representatives, but his troubles are far from over. ABC's Liz Landers has more on the criminal charges that Santos still faces.
This fall, the Department of Justice brought 23 felony charges against Santos for alleged crimes like wire fraud and identity theft. But a 50-page House Ethics Committee report released last month revealed even more damning details. Investigators claim he used campaign funds for his own personal enrichment, including rent, designer clothes, and Botox.
That's ABC's Liz Landers. Your money at this moment: the Dow Jones average up so far on this Friday, 262 points. The NASDAQ is also up, but only about 69 points right now. And our KSL weather looks like the showers will continue. Snow now, rain later. That's next. KSL News Time 1:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Advanced Window Products is having their biggest sale of the year. If your old windows let the winter cold seep in, now's the time to get the highest quality double-pane windows and custom insulated frames. Advanced Window Products is a local company that crafts beautiful precision frames right here in Salt Lake City for 37 years. And the magic is, they cut out the middleman. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So you save on the highest quality windows and frames. Any style, any color, any questions? Yes, financing. They offer 60-month, 0% financing. They'll even let you put off the first payment up to 2 years, and while that's tempting to think about, the reason to call them right now is the biggest sale of the year. This month only, when they do your entire home of 10 windows or more, you get $3,500 off plus a free premium glass upgrade. So call Advanced Window Products right now, 801-850-9100, 801-850-9100, or advancedwindowsusa.com.
Home for the holidays? Sounds nice, doesn't it? What if your home excluded summer yard work and winter snow blowing and was a one-level luxurious townhome with spacious rooms? Sounds even better. Preview your new home for the holidays at an open house December 18th at Nilsson Homes' newest single-level luxury townhome in Bluffview. These homes are move-in ready, no yard work, snow blowing, and close to what you love and enjoy with easy commutes. Experience the Nilsson Homes difference of what spacious single-level townhome floor plans and no stairs looks like. Nilsson Homes has been building across the Wasatch Front for over 45 years, accommodating all the things you need combined with the things you love. Ask about end-of-year promotional savings. Experience your new home for the holidays at their open house event December 18th, 5 to 7 p.m. Pictures with Santa and warm churros at the newest Nilsson community, 227 North, 3830 West Point. Visit Nilsson Homes Communities at nilssonhomes.com, Nilson homes.com.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
A lot of problems out there, mostly due to the weather. First, restrictions are now in place for both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. In Davis County, an accident on the ramp, Highway 89 at 1000 North in Layton, moved to the shoulder. And they're in the final cleanup stages of the crash in Davis County on northbound I-15 and Woods Cross. In Salt Lake County, an accident. This is from southbound I-15 at the southbound Bangerter Highway at the I-80 junction. You're going to see a lot of vehicles involved with that accident and a report of a possible vehicle fire southbound I-215's west belt prior to California Avenue. Live at the Eccles presents an orchestral Christmas with Marie Osmond. 2 shows Saturday, December 2nd at the Eccles Theater. Tickets at liveeccles.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers on and off through the weekend, snow today, tomorrow, and then rain late Saturday and Sunday. We could see 1 to 4 inches of snow in the valleys, 15 to 30 inches in Utah's northern mountains. And right now we're cloudy and 33 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources, an inside look at 2024 presidential politics.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. Every Friday, we take an inside look in the latest of presidential politics, all leading up to the big election for 2024. Super Tuesday, of course, will be a big one as we move past the holiday season, and we're 44 days away from the Iowa caucus, which will really get everything rolling along, followed shortly thereafter by New Hampshire, and then we will be in South Carolina, on to Nevada, and then shooting towards Super Tuesday. And so everything's getting a little bit more tense on the campaign front, even to the point where we have seen some circular firing squads with the Ron DeSantis campaign, with the Super PAC and the official campaign going at each other in terms of strategy and tactics. where funds are going, what messages are getting through, and what aren't. And that's when you know that the pressure and the heat is being turned up because everybody wants an excuse if things are not going well. And, of course, when things are going great, then everyone wants to get credit for making all of that happen. So as we move forward and take our inside look at the political process for the race for the presidency, I always caution everyone as we go through this, understanding the behavior of someone running for president is like trying to smell the color 7. So let's see how our candidates are doing on that. President Biden, the current occupant of the White House, of course, made a campaign stop in Pueblo, Colorado this week to visit a wind manufacturing company, largest wind tower manufacturer in the world. He talked about the investment in infrastructure and jobs that his administration has prioritized.
Since I took office, my Investing in America agenda has led to manufacturing boom that's attracted over $600 billion. $600 billion in private investment from private companies in America and around the world. As I've said for a long time, when I think climate, I think jobs. That's what climate's about, not only saving lives and saving the environment, but jobs.
So the president was able to really weave in some of the things he's been doing in terms of policy with a good campaign stop. He also happened to be in conservative Representative Boebert's district in Colorado, so he took a few shots across the bow at the representative from Colorado, and that's actually one of the things President Biden has going for him, is those within the Republican Party that make it very easy for the president to make this a choice election. And I think the president is doing better when he's saying, whether you love me or not, you don't want the other choice. And he's doing well in that space. When he tries to turn the American people into economists and break down what the numbers mean as opposed to what the American people are feeling, he does less well. In fact, it becomes a real struggle for the president. This week, there was a very curious debate held on Fox News between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is running for president, and the California Governor Gavin Newsom, who isn't running for president, but sort of is. And whether he officially runs in 24 or waits until 2028, he's definitely running for president. So they debated contrasting visions, how they govern, what was going on in Florida versus what was going on in California. In my view, it was a wasted space of 90 minutes that no one will ever get back. But they went right at it right from the get-go in terms of contrasting the visions, starting with Governor DeSantis.
California has more natural advantages than any state in the country. You almost have to try to mess California up. And yeah, that's what Gavin Newsom has done since he's been governor. They have failed because of his leftist ideology. What Biden and Harris and Newsom want to do is take the California model and do that nationally. This country must choose freedom over failure.
Gavin Newsom, for his part, responded to Ron DeSantis with a little quip of his own in terms of what the future looks like for both of them.
You want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, focusing on false separateness. There are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engage them. But there's one thing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
And it went all downhill from there. So we're not going to spend any more time on that. It was just a lot of pejoratives. It was a lot of just back and forth, a lot of shouting matches, and very little. I think they actually spent more time debating whether a fact was a fact or not a fact. A lot of times arguing over what was true and what was not, as opposed to laying out any kind of vision of where they want to lead. So I thought that was a miss. Wasn't quite sure why it was happening anyway. One person running for president, one person not officially running, but running probably for 2028, and two very contrasting states and styles, but not a whole lot of substance from either one of them. Nikki Haley, of course, has been on the rise in a strong position and rising. Second place in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. During a TV interview this week, she emphasized the importance of the next 60 days, which would push through Iowa caucus 44 days out and on to New Hampshire and then to South Carolina.
I trust the people on the ground, and you can feel the momentum. It's a real thing, and our numbers are going to continue to go up. So this is the 60-day window when things start to happen. And yes, we did a strong ad buy in Iowa and New Hampshire to make sure that we're touching every voter that we can, but we're going to work this until the very end.
On MSNBC, Chris Christie was asked if it was maybe time to consider endorsing a candidate and dropping out. He responded by saying it's way too early, and he actually sees some strong momentum in his own campaign.
Well, Trump's voters in New Hampshire said they are open to changing their minds between now and primary day on January 23rd. So, I know everybody wants to make this race over now, but it's not over, and it's not even close to over. And when you just look at the history, forget about predictions. Let's look at what's happened over time. Mm-hmm. And what's happened tells you that there's a long way to go here, and I like the fact that we're gaining momentum now.
I completely agree with Chris Christie on this point. There are a lot of people who want to make this a coronation and to declare this to be over. And you just need to sit down, everybody. Let's let this thing play out. Chris Christie was right. We have to look at history. We've had some long battles on both the Democrat and the Republican side. And everyone should remember that in order to be the Republican nominee for president, you have to have 1,235 delegates vote for you. 1,235. If you take the entirety of delegates that are at stake in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, the total is 112. So less than 10% of what someone needs to actually get the nomination will be decided in the next 60 days. So to say that everybody else should get out or that there should be a coronation, that would be like saying 5.5 minutes into a football game that everybody should just give up. And whoever's ahead at 5.5 minutes into the game should win the entire game. It's not how it works. It's not good for our democracy. It's not good for whoever the nominee ends up being. You've heard me say it on this show before that one of the best things for then candidate Barack Obama was that he had to battle all the way through to June the 4th, before he got enough delegates to become the Democratic nominee in 2008. It made him a better candidate in the fall. It made him a better president in the end, regardless of how you feel about President Obama's time in office. So important. I think Chris Christie is absolutely right on that one. If you missed earlier, I want to go back to my conversation with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an independent running for president. He talked about on our show here just a few moments ago that if he were elected president, his focus is to end the fake fights, the false choice, the division, and get back to some common sense American solutions.
My objective is to end this bickering between Republicans, Democrats, black and whites, all the divisions that are being orchestrated and sown to keep us from collaborating with each other, to keep us from being part of a community. And I'm going to end that over the next 12 months. That's my mission as a candidate, and over 8 years as president, to end the division and actually start solving problems with common sense solutions that are not locked into these tribal orthodoxies.
So we have to get past the tribal orthodoxies of Republicans and Democrats. That's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Inside Sources just about a half hour ago. An important conversation. You can go back and listen to the podcast of that interview with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Later on this afternoon. And let's round out our inside look at the presidential with another independent voice. Last week, I spoke with former Senator and founding chairman of the third-party group, No Labels, Joe Lieberman, about the possibility of them fielding a third-party presidential ticket in 2024.
Then we're going to have to decide if it is Trump and Biden, whether we actually have a chance to win as a third party bipartisan unity ticket. That hasn't happened. That is, a third party candidate hasn't won for president in the U.S. since Abraham Lincoln in 1860. But we think the public disaffection, Boyd, and I'd say anger toward the two parties and their distaste for being forced to choose between Trump and Biden again may make this a unique historic moment where actually a third choice could win. But that's down the road. Right now, we're just working hard on qualifying for the ballots.
So that was my conversation with Joe Lieberman from last week. So that gives you a very rounded look at the Democrats, the Republicans, and the independents that are currently positioning themselves for President of the United States. We do that every Friday, Inside Sources, Inside Look at presidential politics. And I think there's some important messaging there. And whether you lean to the left or to the right, whether you associate and affiliate more with the Democrats or the Republicans, or you're much more in that independent space, I think the most important message for me this week has been centered in the fact that the American people want a choice. They're very tired of this idea that there are only two choices. That's a false choice. And many will say, oh, you can only be a spoiler as a third party. I love that Joe Lieberman pointed out that it's been done before. Now, it's been a while. The last third party to win the presidency was Abraham Lincoln. But that was a pretty good thing for the country. And so I think it is worthwhile that the country has this conversation, that we don't have any coronations for left, right, or center, but we have a true conversation, a real debate about real issues, principles, and policies that will drive the future of the nation. It's up to each one of us to engage in that process. All right, we'll step aside for a quick break. When we come back, we'll break down the aftermath of Representative George Santos being expelled from the House of Representatives. What does it mean? Why did it happen? And now what? We'll talk about it coming up next.
The Olympics are returning to Salt Lake City.
We invite Salt Lake City to host the Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games.
Utah is now the preferred host for the Games in 2034.
The next 10 years is Utah's 10 years. This is us.
Find out what happens next as Utah finalizes its historic position for 2034.
Congratulations, Utah.
We have updates mornings and afternoons and analysis during the Games. Salt Lake City 2034 on KSL News Radio.
Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. Listen, we're fiduciaries. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. That's 888-999-6370. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. Now, imagine how that would be if you could actually retire 3 to 5 years sooner than your plan was. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan, taking into consideration any rental properties that you have, any pension income that you have, your Social Security. Listen, we put that all together for you in writing. It will allow us to build your income based on inflation. You know, inflation has been rapidly rising. You and I both need a plan that whatever we start out our income at, in 5 or 10 years, we're going to need 40% more income. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Get your home's electrical system running in peak condition by scheduling a $79 whole home electric inspection with the professionals at Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric today. The electrical experts at Yes are ready to help identify unsafe conditions and possibly prevent expensive repairs in the future. Proudly serving Utah for more than 45 years. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
At Shane Company, we believe everybody deserves to shine. That's why we create fine jewelry that's unique, personal, and crafted with care. Every engagement ring center stone is hand set by our expert jewelers. Every diamond meets our superior standards for sparkle and beauty. Every gemstone is chosen for its spectacular color, and our free lifetime warranty is the best in the industry. 'Tis the season to shine. Shane Company, fine jewelry since 1929.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. Podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact Todd Larson at KSL for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. Email tlarson@ksl.com. That's tlarson@ksl.com.
Dear Santa, thank you so much for remembering me this year. Christmas was the best. Thank you for the shoes, and I love the coat you brought. It's so cute and so warm.
At KSL, it's our hope that every child will have a warm and joyful holiday season. Please donate generously to KSL's Quarters for Christmas.
Every dollar raised goes to buy shoes and warm clothes for Utah children in need. Give what you can at kslquarters.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a quarterback who might have had a future in the NFL has chosen to serve in the U.S. Navy instead. Second, the fight over Utah's new state flag isn't over yet. And third, there's still plenty of trouble ahead for George Santos, even though he's no longer a member of Congress. Right now, 33 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
On this vote, the yeas are 311, the nays are 114. 2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. The clerk will notify the governor of the state of New York of the action of the House. The chair announces to the House that in light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
That was this morning. The House of Representatives voted to expel former New York Representative George Santos from Congress. As you heard from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, the vote was 311 to 114. 105 Republicans joined Democrats in this vote to expel Mr. Santos. This makes him the sixth member of Congress to ever be expelled from the chamber. So what will happen now in the House? What lessons can we learn from this to prevent another case like George Santos? Really interesting. I think as we break all of this down, I think we can actually go all the way back to the first inaugural address in 1789 of George Washington. He said that it was his hope that the foundations of our national policy will be laid in the pure and immutable principles of private morality. And that is a high bar, but it is a bar that everyone who is elected to high office should clear easily, not barely, and not miss completely. Earlier this year, after a brief confrontation, Utah Senator Mitt Romney gave his thoughts to reporters about the conduct of Mr. Santos.
Look, embellishing is saying you got an A when you get an A-. Lying is saying you graduated from a college you didn't even attend. And he shouldn't be in Congress. And they're going to go through the process and hopefully get him out. But he shouldn't be there. And if he had any shame at all, he wouldn't be there.
A fellow New York Representative, Mark Molinaro, spoke yesterday during the House debate and actually condemned the conduct of Mr. Santos.
I was not elected, nor any of us, to defend precedent. I was elected to defend the United States Constitution. And my colleague, in the most truthful thing he said today, said we don't want to be compared to him. And the voters that sent me here expect an independent voice, expect us to use the rules of the House, and expect us to stand up for the very decency and laws of this country in protecting the Constitution. He has lost the right to serve in this House, and I will vote to expel him.
Protecting and defending the Constitution and the integrity of the institution of the House of Representatives, I think, is what really came into play for so many lawmakers. Following the vote, the chair of the Ethics Committee, Michael Guest, spoke to reporters out on the steps of the Capitol. He explained why he voted to expel former Representative Santos and addressed members' concern about any kind of precedent this may set for the future.
Well, you know, it was an easy vote for me, but I have been involved in this case since the very beginning. I understand the precedent that some members feel that this sets a precedent that members can be removed from Congress without a conviction. In years past, many members have chosen to resign instead of forcing Congress to take a vote to expel. But if you look at the report, if you read those findings, again, they find substantial evidence of multiple violations, which in my case clearly supported expulsion. We followed the Constitution and the way that this was to play out.
And I think that's such an important thing. He said, in the past, if someone had been caught in these kinds of things, they would have just resigned. And there wouldn't have been a need for the House to actually expel someone because the shame of it, the acknowledgement of it, would have caused them to just resign and move on. Sadly, because of our performative politics, people now wear that as a badge of honor. And that's why we're losing credibility and trust in the institution of Congress. And so I thought that was interesting that the chairman of the Ethics Committee, Michael Guest, that we just heard from, that he said, look, in the past, most people just would have done the right thing on their own and resigned. But in today's digital world and social media world where everyone has a platform, this has become a badge of honor. It's part of the us against them way that you raise a whole lot of money. I thought it was important. Utah Representative John Curtis issued a statement following the vote, and I think he got this right. Take a listen. He said, I consider my responsibilities in regard to George Santos. Two things were very clear to me. First, the Constitution not only gives us the power to police our own, I believe it is expected. Second, Representative Curtis said the evidence and that nature of violations of George Santos exceeded by any measure conduct that should be tolerated. As a result, I voted in favor of Representative Santos' expulsion from the House. And we have to guard and protect the institution as well as the Constitution if we're going to have trust in government and our ability to move forward as a nation. That wraps up hour number one of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will talk about what's happening in Israel, and former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith will join us to talk about Sandra Day O'Connor's legacy on Inside Sources. Stick around.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.
This is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Every member of the U.S. House from Utah voted in favor of George Santos' expulsion this morning. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobe reports on what they were saying.
It comes as no surprise that all of Utah's Republican representatives in the House voted this way, but their distaste for Santos' actions is clear in statements to KSL News Radio. Congressman John Curtis, for example, says that the evidence and nature of violations of Santos exceeded the conduct that should be tolerated. Comments from Utah's other House members are very similar.
Congressman Burgess Owen says it was clear from the Ethics Committee report that Santos egregiously violated the standards expected of a member of Congress. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. World leaders are gathered for a climate summit today in Dubai. The collapse of a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war is casting a long shadow over that meeting. Here's NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg.
The suffering and the violence we have seen over the last weeks since the terrorist attacks on the 7th of October underlines the importance of not to give up the efforts to find a lasting political solution. I commend NATO allies, the United States, for working hard to find such a solution.
Fighting resumed today in Gaza with Israel and Hamas trading rocket and artillery fire. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 294 points as we approach the close of trading now. And the NASDAQ is up 78 points so far on the day. Our KSL weather, we'll see continued showers, but they'll eventually turn to rain. More on that just ahead. KSL News Time 2:02.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
If you've been trying to get into that holiday dress you wore a few years ago and you can't get it zipped because you've gained some weight, boy, have I been there and done that. I can remember there was a time when I had 4 or 5 different sizes in my closet. And I think, are these the pants that fit me? Are these the pants that fit me? And then I'd have to find a sweater that was long enough to go over. And now, since I've lost this 34 pounds on Soda Weight Loss, my day is easier. I have, for the first time in my adult life, one size in my closet. You have no idea how much joy that gives me. People, you've got to check out Soda Weight Loss.
And here's the thing. This will be the last time you ever go through this process because they have the same goal that you do, not just to lose the weight now, but to keep that weight off. We've told you the average man loses 3 to 5 pounds a week, the average female 2 to 3 pounds a week. They can help you too and set your goals for the new year 2024 that is right around the corner. Reach out to them at sodaweightloss.com, spelled S-O-T-A. Think Tim and Amanda. It is state of the art.
You can't expect a policeman to unclog your drain. You shouldn't ask a teacher to change your oil. And you wouldn't want a fireman to clean your teeth. So why would we let politicians take over our internet service? That's just not what they do. Experience proves government-run networks mean waste, corruption, and failure. One example, called Utopia, promised to provide internet service in 16 cities within a few years. But over 20 years and hundreds of millions of dollars later, a better name would be dystopia. They say it's almost complete. We say stop wasting our money. Go to nogovinternet.com and tell lawmakers enough is enough. Local tax dollars are precious, and public employees have plenty to do already. Don't let politicians mess with our internet. Paid for by nogovinternet.com, a project of Domestic Policy Caucus.
Hi, I'm Celeste Edmonds, Executive Director of the Christmas Box House. When I was a foster child, Christmas felt like something that was for everyone but me. Christmas should be for all children. The Christmas Box is working with the Utah community to provide Christmas for nearly 2,800 at-risk children. To learn how you can help today, please contact us at thechristmasbox.org or Google us. Thank you and happy holidays.
This is Richard Paul Evans. I'm excited to announce a new book I co-wrote with Celeste Edmonds, director of the Christmas Box International. It's called Garbage Bag Girl. Years ago, I wrote a best-selling book called Finding Noelle based on Celeste's life. I always wanted to write her full story. Now I have. Warning, there are graphic parts. Her life was difficult, but ultimately, this book is about hope. I love this book. You can buy Garbage Bag Girl on Amazon. Garbage Bag Girl, now on sale.
When Big O Tires goes big, a one-day sale isn't enough. Now through December 10th, everything is on sale. Stop by your locally owned and operated Big O Tires, the team you trust.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
We do have restrictions in place for both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons. All vehicles must have traction devices to get up into Big or Little Cottonwood, and that snow is coming down and coating the road. We're also seeing it in the valley on I-215's East Belt. It's also been affecting travel, slowing speeds southbound I-15, Murray and Midvale. Get 2 weeks of free healthy meals with Fed Up Kitchen's Black Friday BOGO sale. Buy one 4-week meal program, get another 4 weeks half off. Don't miss this deal. Order now at fedupkitchen.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers off and on through the weekend. Snow today and tomorrow, then rain late Saturday into Sunday. We could see 1 to 4 inches of snow in the valleys, 15 to 30 inches in Utah's northern mountains. And right now, 34 degrees and cloudy. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The ceasefire between Hamas and Israel has ended, and the fighting has resumed. We want to get beyond the headlines and look at what this actually means for the hostages, especially the Americans still being held in captivity, and what comes next in the Middle East. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, as we try to get past the headlines in what is now an ever-changing situation in the Middle East, always pleased to have joining us Behnam Bentaleblu, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And as you look at things and the change now, the ceasefire has come to an end. We know there are still about 137 hostages being held, 7 at least Americans being held. Give us your sense in terms of where does this put us now with the ceasefire and the pause officially coming to an end today?
Well, it's a pleasure to be back with you. Listen, both sides, stress that they're still willing to continue to negotiate via mediators. We know who that mediator is. It's the country wherein Hamas has its political headquarters. That's Qatar, specifically there in Doha. So despite this willingness to continue to find ways to bring back the hostages home, as you mentioned, Israel is resuming military operations, noting that Hamas violated this truce/ceasefire/temporary pause first with the firing of rockets. And Israel, as you know, remains adamant and committed to the goals of its military operation, which is the eradication of Hamas. And that's why the IDF is intent on moving further south. There's been earlier reporting today about leaflets being passed around, or dropped, I should say, in the southern city of Khan Yunis, calling it a fighting zone. So you can expect the geographic scope of the war to change over the next few days if there's not yet another truce or another pause or another ceasefire. But don't expect that the Israelis won't be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, meaning don't expect that they won't be able to continue to press Hamas while still looking to bring back its 137 hostages that include foreign nationals and American citizens.
Yeah, and as you look at that, you mentioned that clearly the geography of this is going to change as they continue to push further south. That clearly changes the dynamics of the situation on the ground, and especially those citizens in terms of their being in danger. And that seems to be one of the areas where the Biden administration is walking a very fine line in terms of cautioning or encouraging Israel to be precise, to be careful, to make sure they limit the number of civilian casualties. What are you hearing in terms of those conversations and how Israel is likely to prosecute this next phase of the war?
Well, it's likely to be a lot more of the same. But you've already had the White House about an hour or 2 hours ago not deciding to weigh in on the quote-unquote deliberate targeting or the specific targeting of Israel since this most recent lapsing of the ceasefire. We all know, of course, that there's measures to get Israel to commit to a longer ceasefire, as well as, of course, political pressure to withhold some of the armaments, particularly from the left flank of the Democratic Party, both socially and politically. To kind of circumscribe the support that the Biden administration has already given Israel in this regard. But right now, I think it's important to note that you're likely going to see more of the same types of fighting tactics around Khan Yunis in the near term, in the short term, that you saw on the northern end of Gaza. So that means tank activity, precision strikes, creative ways to take advantage of the geography to either flood the tunnels or destroy the tunnels or to render the tunnels inoperable, as well as more precision strikes, hopefully using smaller diameter bombs to go after the known sites of the Hamas stockpile.
I've been anxious to ask you, as it relates to the American hostages, White House spokesperson John Kirby said on Tuesday this week that there was no indication that Hamas was really using the American hostages as high leverage, was his words. This has been a little bit of a head-scratcher for me in terms of having this many Americans being taken hostage in this kind of environment. It has seemed to me very quiet in terms of either identifying, calling out, calling for, or the U.S. being engaged there. Help us understand the dynamics of that. Is it simply that Israel is driving and the U.S. is content to to follow along at this point? How does that look from your perspective?
Well, this is one part where the proxy is greatly mirroring, I should say, the tactics of the patron. The proxy, I mean, there is Hamas, and the patron is the Islamic Republic. You know, the Islamic Republic inaugurated its conflict with America in 1979, not after it came to power in February, but actually after the hostage crisis that started in November 1979 and went 444 days. Obviously, Hamas has taken Israeli hostages for long periods of time in different periods of different battle rhythms. We all remember the case of Gilad Shalit. In fact, that was the case that had released Yahya Sinwar, who is now fighting and likely has already fled further south. So we know the history of this. But as Hamas continues to take more hostages in emulation of its patron in Tehran, it understands the ability of Iran to have gotten a different kind of cash value or a different kind of benefit, political, military, from the adversary, from a different kind of hostage. A foreign national, for instance, buys Hamas more time, buys Hamas more space at the bargaining table. And in this sense, I actually think Hamas continues to use human shields and hostages as human shields to delay the Israeli military operation, to try to divide America from Israel over the continued political goals behind the military operation. And every time that they're able to get another truce or another ceasefire, that's another time that Iran's proxy in Gaza, Hamas, gets to fight to live another day. So I would respectfully disagree with Kirby here. You see selective, instrumental, politicized use of these hostages precisely to function as a human shield, to delay the operations and to buy time, and to allow Hamas to flee further south, to move more men, to move more material, and to make the media war for Israel as hard as you see it today.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the delay and the divisiveness, both in terms of driving a wedge between Israel and the U.S. and within the United States itself, in terms of support for Israel and support for getting those hostages back, I think is a really interesting nuance that, again, I don't think nearly enough people are talking about. Give us one last thing before we let you go, Behnam, as you look at this. What else is on your radar as you watch rolling into this weekend? Again, knowing that there's still some negotiation going on through those from Qatar about potential ceasefires happening again and exchanges. What else are you watching for on the ground and geopolitically?
Well, geopolitically, I'm going to slightly broaden the aperture here. Iran doesn't just back Hamas, it backs a whole host of Shia militias in Iraq and Syria firing at us. And since October 17th, meaning 10 days since the October 7th terror attack, and the 10th day is when Iran's supreme leader issued a veiled threat that if America doesn't stop Israel, that the axis of resistance, quote unquote, which is the name of the Iranian larger proxy network in the region, would be activated. There have been 75 strikes now on the U.S. force presence in Iraq and Syria since October 17th. That is 75 too many, if you ask me. And with the erosion or the lapsing of this temporary truce or ceasefire, I would expect actually an uptick in those strikes. And right before the Thanksgiving holiday, there was a qualitative uptick because for the first time ever, these militias used not a drone, not a rocket, not a mortar, but a ballistic missile against the American force presence. So it's only a matter of time before Iran's strategy of making America fear a wider war will lead, God forbid, to an American death.
Fantastic perspective. Deeper dive as always. Behnam Bentaleb, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Always appreciate your perspective and deep insight. Help us understand exactly what's happening and, more importantly, what comes next. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for your time.
It's Behnam Bentaleb, a Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And I just love the way he looks at the nuance and everything that's going on. So much of it goes right through Iran. And that's a critical component to all of this. And so much of the hostage component to this is buying time for Hamas and driving division. That's really the goal, to make sure that there's division between support for Israel with the United States and division within the United States. We're seeing that within the Democratic Party. We're seeing it across the spectrum, really. And that's a challenge for President Biden and the administration. And sadly, it's also becoming a bigger problem for those that are being held hostage. And I still don't believe we're giving nearly enough attention to those Americans who are being held by Hamas. Those are American citizens, and they need to be brought home. We'll right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. As the year winds down, the storylines are ramping up.
Mystery virus in dogs continues to baffle veterinarians.
Homelessness in Utah has been steadily increasing. Good accumulating snow expected in the mountains.
Keep up with these and the stories still to come. Listen to Tim and Amanda in the morning from 5 to 9, David Dejanovic at 9, and Boyd Matheson at 1. And on your drive home, get breaking updates and Jeff Kaplan's Minute of News from 3 to 7. All day, all season. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. I've got to tell you about the shopping experience that Dee and I had the other day at the Western Nut Company. First of all, when you walk into, I like to call it the mothership, the store right there where all of the magic happens at 434 South on 3rd West. You walk through the door and the smell of the nuts that are being roasted right there in the back area and the decor, it is just a holiday experience. And the great selection from Paul's Brittles to traditional Western Nut gift boxes that are all pre-wrapped, ready to go, to even the beautiful decorations. And they're playing an old music box that just puts you in the mood for gift giving this holiday season. And be sure to pick up some treats for yourself. And by the way, Dee and I always mail things back to Dee's relatives in Missouri. They do the mailing right there. Look for the kiosks that are going to be popping up all over the place. You can also go online at westernnut.com. You're going to love it.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
At Common Spirit Holy Cross Hospitals, we're honored to carry the legacy of our namesake and to extend the legacy of care in our communities. We're part of 20 hospitals and 240 clinics across Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
With our roots in northern Utah, Common Spirit Holy Cross Hospitals have a legacy of caring to help every person be whole and healthy. We're part of 20 hospitals and 240 clinics across Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Learn more at holycrossutah.org.
In order for small businesses to thrive, they need to be smart, efficient, savvy, staying ahead of the market at every turn, finding ways to do more with less, and taking advantage of every opportunity that comes their way. That's why Comcast Business is introducing the Small Business Bonus. For a limited time, you can get up to a $1,000 prepaid card when you switch to Comcast Business, the company with the largest, fastest, reliable network. Yep, you heard that right. 1,000 back. Something extra for your company. From the company that powers more businesses than anyone else. So if you're a small business owner, don't wait. Call or go online to learn about the $1,000 bonus today. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Ends 12/5/2023. New customers with 750 megabits per second or above and 2-year agreement must keep required new services for 30 days to receive prepaid card. Other restrictions apply.
Peterson Art Center. Give the gift of creativity with a gift certificate good for any art or pottery class. It's the perfect gift for spouses, kids, friends, and seniors. The Peterson Art Center in Sugar House.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Well, as we have noted and covered today, of course, the passing of former Justice of the Supreme Court, Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to be on the High Court. And as we look at her life and her legacy, we always like to look to those who were in the room where it happened, people who had that perspective and personal connection. And we're really thrilled, as always, to have joining us on the program former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith. And Judge Griffith, it's always great to have you on. And I know that you had a great connection to Justice O'Connor. Give us first just kind of a high-level memory.
Sure, thank you. I'm happy to do so. This a giant has fallen, has been taken from us. Sandra Day O'Connor. There was no one quite like her. I got to know her before I was a judge. I was involved in some rule of law projects in former communist countries in Eastern Europe, and this was her project. She was the driving force behind actually a movement to send American lawyers and judges into former communist countries to help reformers write constitutions and reestablish the rule of law after communist rule. And so I was privileged to travel extensively with her in these former communist nations back in the 1990s and 2000s. And to go with her to these places and to meet these reformers, these people who were trying to reestablish the rule of law in their nations, it was one of the most inspiring experiences of my life. They looked on her with awe, as we all did, and they were just inspired by her commitment to the rule of law, her commitment to democratic principles, her commitment to the independent judiciary, and again, just to sort of be at her side and watch her deal with these reformers in these countries was just inspiring. And that was the foundation of a friendship that I'm privileged to say I had with her over the years. When I was the general counsel of BYU, I got the permission of President Merrill Bateman to invite her to come speak at BYU in a forum assembly. Those are typically held on Tuesday mornings at 11 o'clock in the Marriott Center, and you get a nice showing from the students. A couple thousand kids show up. When we invited her, she could only do it on a Thursday. she couldn't do it on a Tuesday. Well, we said, okay, we'll do it on a Thursday. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. Students aren't used to going on a Thursday. Well, we had it a Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, and the Marriott Center was packed. It was packed. When I would travel with her across campus in one of those little golf carts, students would yell out to her, and I was thinking, what? This is odd. I mean, if I had Bono in the cart next to me, I think it would have been about the same reaction. And then it dawned on me, and my own children told me this, that when they're learning American history, the two great figures after the 1950s that they all learn about are Martin Luther King and Sandra Day O'Connor. and I saw that, the charisma and the power that she had over our own young people because of the life that she lived and what she represented.
Yeah, those principles were so powerful to her. I want to go back before we move on to some other reflections, Judge Griffith. I want to go back to this traveling into some of these former communist countries. And one, I can't think of a better tag team for helping write a constitution than you and Justice O'Connor. That's a game-winning strategy for a country looking for a constitution.
Well, thank you. There were a lot of other people. There were a lot of other people involved. It wasn't just her and me, but I was happy to be part.
Yeah.
I was happy to be part of her group.
Yeah, and as you looked at that, I think that was one of the things that she was so passionate about that. And to take you and a host of others that went into those countries. But I think it was also because of her unique perspective, the only justice to have ever served in all three branches of government. Of course, her time as a senator and the Senate Majority Leader there in Arizona, her time in the executive branch, and then, of course, in the judiciary. That is a really rare combination that I think gave her a really interesting view of everybody stay in your lane, and that's how freedom really flourishes.
Yeah. No, she was dogged in her commitment to democracy and to an independent judiciary. One of the things that she exemplified so well is she had great friendships with the other justices, even though they disagreed. I think most of the obituaries that are being written right now, I noticed Linda Greenhouse's column in the New York Times stressed just how important she was to all the work of the court during her time. She was enormously influential with all of the justices, and she would work hard to reach consensus on a court by reaching out to others. she was not ideological. Now, and I have to tell you, I as much as I admire her, she and I actually have different judicial philosophies.
Right.
We view things differently on a number of matters. But she was and will always be for me a model of someone who understood what it meant to be on a collegial body. It means that you work with others and you listen to them and you respect them. And in that regard, she was a matchless peer and an inspiration for all of us.
Yeah, and I love the fact that she always seemed to be curious and her learning. In fact, there was one story I read today about how she was in a 5-4 majority. I can't remember what the case was, and she was assigned to write the majority opinion. And partway through, she changed her mind, going through writing the opinion, and ended up, flipping, but then getting asked to write what was the minority became the majority opinion because she stayed curious and was willing to go through that hard work and heavy lifting intellectually to get down to the truth, to get down to the application of the law.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. She worked hard. She took her job seriously. She had a keen sense that she occupied a unique place in American history, and from everything that I could observe, she didn't abuse that. To her, it was a privilege and an honor, and so she worked hard to maintain that privilege and to bring in others. Again, to see her with reformers and the time that she would take to get to know them, to listen to them, to find out who they were. She would want to know their personal circumstances. She formed an instant bond with folks, many of whom were in awe of her, and yet she went out of her way. She had a very common touch. She went out of her way to get to know these people, to understand their circumstances, and then to inspire them in the heavy work of creating the rule of law. The rule of law is a fragile possibility, and they were in a circumstance and in a culture that they were trying to reestablish it, and it was hard work. And as we've seen, there's been some slippage, right? It's constantly a hard work, but to see her there in that first wave of American lawyers and judges who went over to try and help those folks was, as I said before, it was inspiring. It was inspiring that she did it and the way she did it, personal touch. It was really, really life-altering for me.
What she did and the way she did it really mattered. If you're just joining us, we're having a conversation with former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith, who was actually sworn in by Justice O'Connor, knew her personally, traveled in important things with a group that went to many of these former communist countries to help them write a constitution, to establish the rule of law again in their land. We're going to stay with the conversation after this short break for bottom of the hour news. My conversation with Judge Thomas Griffith on the life and legacy of Sandra Day O'Connor, first woman on the Supreme Court who passed away today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. 5 universities in the state of Utah headed to court now in hopes of keeping the athletes' name, image, and likeness contracts private.
Earlier this year, the Utah State Records Committee unanimously ruled NIL contracts are not education records and that they must be shared when someone asks for them under Utah's public records laws. But now the University of Utah, Utah State, Weber State, Utah Valley, and Southern Utah are all asking a judge to reverse that decision, claiming the contracts are protected under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. The Deseret News reports BYU is not affected since the rules are different for private universities.
That's KSL News Radio's Adam Small. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A major pharmaceutical company announced a setback as it works on new weight loss drugs. ABC's Brian Clark has details.
Popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic, Mounjaro, and Wegovy are taken as weekly injections. Drug companies are trying to develop oral weight loss medications, but Pfizer announced a setback Friday. It's stopping development of its twice-a-day oral obesity medication. Clinical trials showed less weight loss than expected and a high number of patients who experienced side effects. Pfizer will continue trials of a once-a-day weight loss drug with data expected in the first half of next year. Brian Clark, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average closing trading today up 294 points. The NASDAQ was up 78. The S&P 500 up 26 today. And our KSL weather, we'll see that snow continue, and then turning to rain later in the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
In 400 AD, a forgotten time in ancient America, warrior prophet Moroni must preserve the history of his fallen nation while being hunted by a ruthless tyrant.
Where is the brave general now?
From Freestyle Releasing and Great Scott Entertainment comes
The memory of my God,
The Oath.
my faith and my freedom, my wife and my son.
The Oath, coming to theaters on December 8th, rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. More information is available at oathmovie.com.
I've worked hard to get where I am. I don't cut corners. I see opportunity and make the most of it. And I'm celebrating that success in style by heading to Jerry Seiner Cadillac to get the car I've been working for. They have new XT4, 5, and 6 models in stock and the area's largest selection of certified pre-owned vehicles. I've put in the work and I've earned the luxury that only comes with a Cadillac. If you have too, then it's time to visit Jerry Seiner and experience the Seiner difference.
Guys, does she need a little escape this year? Introducing Cozy Escape Pajamas from Pajamagram, America's PJ experts. These PJs are just the getaway she needs. So take that time off and plan a holiday staycation. Cozy Escape Pajamas make the perfect gift for your special someone who deserves a little rest and relaxation. Treat her to luxurious next-level Cozy signature soft fleece. They're as light as a dream and will keep her oh so warm, like snuggling in her favorite blanket. She'll love to cuddle in Cozy Escape PJs on those extra chilly nights. With Pajamagram, you can even add gift packaging. Order now for guaranteed delivery by Christmas. She's missed out on a lot of things she loves this year, so this Christmas, give her the escape she deserves. These new PJs are selling fast, so order today. Go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com to order Cozy Escape Pajamas. Pajamagram.com.
Get ready, Utah! It's Medicare annual enrollment period, so why not make enrolling easier with United Healthcare? Whether you choose our online tools or over-the-phone support, United Healthcare will help you compare options so you can choose a plan with confidence. This is Medicare made for Utah, trusted everywhere. Explore our wide range of plans by calling United Healthcare today at 1-855-MEET-UHC. That's 1-855-MEET-UHC. Annual enrollment begins October 15th and ends December 7th, so call today.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have some unusual delays northbound I-15. They start right after Burton Lane in the Farmington-Kaysville area. They don't clear out until just as you're approaching Layton Parkway. I don't have an accident reported, but just be careful because those backups are really slow. Restrictions remain in place for both Big and Little Cottonwood Canyons at this time. Witness the magic of the Nutcracker, opening December 8th with the timeless music of Tchaikovsky, performed live by the Ballet West Orchestra. Tickets at balletwest.org. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, showers on and off through the weekend, snow today and tomorrow, and then rain late Saturday and Sunday. We could see 1 to 4 inches of snow in the valleys, with 15 to 30 inches in Utah's northern mountains. Right now, mostly cloudy, 36 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, if you're just joining us here on Inside Sources, we've been having a great conversation with former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith. about the incredible life, the legacy, and personality of Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who passed away today. And very interesting, Justice Griffith shared with me that it was actually Justice O'Connor that swore him in to the D.C. Circuit. And she made a connection with him to the West, even though Justice Griffith is actually from the East Coast. He does have deep ties here in the state of Utah. And so she always looked at him as a Westerner and said it was a good thing for us to have some people from out West. Of course, she spent time out here, Arizona, where she was in the state Senate, where she also was in the executive branch there in Arizona. And she is the only Supreme Court justice in our history to have actually served in all three branches of government. And I think that gave her a very unique perspective in terms of the rule of law and what that actually means. So we're going to stay with the conversation with Justice Griffith, looking at an extraordinary life, all that she overcame. The fact that she never lost her personal touch, as she did serve in those different branches of government, and, of course, her ultimate rise to the ranks of the Supreme Court. So in talking with Judge Griffith, he reflected on some of the crucial components of her legacy when I asked him about her life and her many accomplishments.
Yeah, I mean, her life and to see what she was able to accomplish and to see what she went through, it's a testament to her greatness. It's also a measure, I believe, of how far we've come today. And it's something we ought to celebrate, right? I mean, the fact that we have so many women with great opportunities in the law who are making such incredible contributions to our country. And it lets us see how foolish we were for so long to neglect that great resource. But you know, the Sandra Day O'Connor, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Elena Kagan, Soto Sotomayor, Amy Coney Barrett. These are great role models for all of us, but for young women especially, to see that they're needed and that their leadership is greatly valued. But it started with her, right? Yeah. It started with her. She was the beginning of a great and positive transformation in the American legal system.
Yeah, no question. And we often say that the small talk of great people would be a great benefit to all of us. And I think you got to see some of that, obviously, in the travels to those former Soviet bloc countries and communist countries. Give us some more sense. She was also kind of noted to be the glue on the Supreme Court of getting the justices out of the marbled halls and to do some things that were just personal or fun or different to make sure that collegiality that you were talking about earlier. Give us some more sense of that.
Yeah, let's put it this way. She was not monastic in any sense of the word. I mean, she didn't let grass grow under her feet, and she was deeply involved in all sorts of wonderful projects. Once again, taking advantage of the position that she held. She recognized that she's not only a justice of the Supreme Court, but she was a leader, a civic leader. And so she was constantly traveling, speaking, and teaching and encouraging. And she just had this grand vision of what she could do from the vantage point, by virtue of her position on the Supreme Court, what she could do and the good that she could do. And she never stopped doing that. You know, when she stepped down from the court, her two great projects were, first of all, civic education. And, you know, she created iCivics, which is having a profound impact on civics education in high school and in grade schools around the country. And the other project she devoted herself to was judicial independence, and she was committed to a project she did not like the idea that in many states judges are elected. Now, I know that's a controversial position. Reasonable people can disagree over it, but she didn't like it. She didn't think it was a good idea, and she threw herself into projects to change that. She's a little less successful on that than on the iCivics front. But I mean, the point is, you know, she could have, as many of us would do, retire and put your feet up. I mean, she had worked hard all her life since the days of red. She did not know how to do that. She did not know how to do that. And she She was so committed to this country and what it stands for and what it can yet be that she was a tireless worker on that. She in person, she was a leader. She was not a shrinking violet in any way. I think in every group that I was with her, whether it was in Eastern Europe or at a dinner gathering in Washington, she was the leader. She was the driving force of the conversation, and people accepted that.
Yeah.
She did it well, but it was she was not an introvert by any stretch of the imagination. You know, one of these never met a stranger.
Yes.
Never met a stranger. Every person she met, she wanted to get to know them. And learn about them. And it was just, you know, we don't use the word charismatic that much anymore, but she had it. She had charisma.
Yeah.
And I think used it to great effect and for good.
So important. Such a crucial conversation. Great insight on an extraordinary woman, an incredible Supreme Court Justice, a great American. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who passed away, was announced today. And Judge Thomas Griffith, we always appreciate your perspective, and especially today. And I think Justice Connor would smile brightly with her commitment to civics education for all that you're doing to help elevate the dialogue across the country and around the world. And we appreciate you carving out time on a very busy day to help us reflect on important principles lived by a very important person in our nation's history. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Boyd.
Again, a great conversation with former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith, of course, a friend of the show, comes on regularly to help us make sense of a lot of the things as it relates to civic education, as it relates to civility and dialogue, the Constitution, religious liberty, someone who was so important as a member of the D.C. Circuit Court, second highest court in the land, only to the Supreme Court, and his unique connection with Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, who passed away today at the age of 93, leaving an important legacy. There are some people who step into places of history. There are some people who make a place in history. And I think Justice O'Connor did that, obviously, as the first woman on the Supreme Court. But it was so much more than that. That was one component to it, but it did not define her impact, nor will it be the essence of her legacy. There are so many more things, including many former communist countries who now have constitutions and the rule of law through her efforts to help guide them along that way, and why the separation of powers was so important. She had a unique perspective on all of that. Again, big thanks to former D.C. Circuit Judge Thomas Griffith joining us to reflect on an extraordinary life. We're going to go ahead and step aside for one last commercial break. And when we come back, we'll give you some final thoughts on that life and legacy, and some things we all ought to do differently today, because there was one Sandra Day O'Connor who showed us there could be a way to do things just a little bit better. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This holiday season, celebrate family.
Spending Christmas together.
As Matt and Savannah Shaw present A Shaw Family Christmas with special guest William Joseph. Join the beloved father-daughter duo live in concert on December 8th and 9th at the Eccles Theater in Salt Lake City. For tickets, visit liveattheeccles.com. Presented by Hoops Vision.
Guys, does she need a little escape this year? Introducing Cozy Escape Pajamas from Pajamagram, America's PJ experts. These PJs are just the getaway she needs. So take that time off and plan a holiday staycation. Cozy Escape Pajamas make the perfect gift for your special someone who deserves a little rest and relaxation. Treat her to luxurious next-level cozy signature soft fleece. They're as light as a dream and will keep her oh so warm, like snuggling in her favorite blanket. She'll love to cuddle in Cozy Escape PJs on those extra chilly nights. With Pajamagram, you can even add gift packaging. Order now for guaranteed delivery by Christmas. She's missed out on a lot of things she loves this year, so this Christmas, give her the escape she deserves. These new PJs are selling fast, so order today. Go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com to order Cozy Escape Pajamas. Pajamagram.com.
Advertising used to be simple. Your options were radio, TV, newspaper, and let's not forget the yellow pages. Now it seems like a tidal wave of options. Podcast, cable TV, streaming, OTT, CTV, audio networks, smart speakers. On top of that, you need digital marketing for your website along with SEM, SEO, display, video, YouTube, email, and all the social media platforms. Look, you're the expert in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert to market you? We are Bonneville Salt Lake, the local marketing and media company you know and trust. We reach customers across all digital and social platforms and have the reach of traditional advertising available as well. We find your customer anytime, any place, anywhere on any device here in Utah or anywhere in the world. We work to optimize your results with our in-house local team of experts, providing you with qualified leads, not just impressions. Contact us at aimyourdigital.com for a free consultation, including a complete digital audit with no obligation or cost to you. We are Bonneville Salt Lake. Your success starts at aimyourdigital.com.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips that you plan in advance, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends for which you make a group chat 3 months before so that nobody or anything is missing? Or your daughter's first birthday party. You planned it with such dedication that instead of the first, it felt like our 15s. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit. And make a family communications plan. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Get ready, Utah! It's Medicare annual enrollment period, so why not make enrolling easier with United Healthcare? Whether you choose our online tools or over-the-phone support, United Healthcare will help you compare options so you can choose a plan with confidence. This is Medicare made for Utah, trusted everywhere. Explore our wide range of plans by calling United Healthcare today at 1-855-MEET-UHC. That's 1-855-MEET-UHC. Annual enrollment begins October 15th and ends December 7th, so call today.
Imagine it's the last ride, but your symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, are taking you for a ride. What should you do? Keep managing your constipation with belly pain the same old way? Or try getting ahead of your symptoms by talking to your doctor about treating it with Linzess, linaclotide. Linzess is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually.
Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling.
Imagine, what could relief from IBS-C mean for you? Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Hi, I'm Celeste Edmonds, Executive Director of the Christmas Box House. When I was a foster child, Christmas felt like something that was for everyone but me. Christmas should be for all children. The Christmas Box is working with the Utah community to provide Christmas for nearly 2,800 at-risk children. To learn how you can help today, please contact us at thechristmasbox.org or Google us. Thank you and happy holidays.
This is Richard Paul Evans. I'm excited to announce a new book I co-wrote with Celeste Edmonds, director of the Christmas Box International. It's called Garbage Bag Girl. Years ago, I wrote a best-selling book called Finding Noelle based on Celeste's life. I always wanted to write her full story. Now I have. Warning, there are graphic parts. Her life was difficult, but ultimately, this book is about hope. I love this book. You can buy Garbage Bag Girl on Amazon. Garbage Bag Girl, now on sale.
Fed Up Kitchen is Utah's premier healthy meal prep service, and their annual Black Friday BOGO sale is back and healthier than ever. Here's how it works. Buy one 4-week meal program, get another 4 weeks half off. That's 2 weeks of delicious and healthy meals for free. Made fresh daily, Fed Up Kitchen helps you reach your health goals with their macro-friendly, gluten-free meals that will save you time and money. The best part is there's no cooking required. Simply store your meals in the fridge, heat, and eat. With the new year around the corner, there's no better time to start prepping your health goals for 2024 and set yourself up for success. So what are you waiting for? Get 2 weeks of free healthy meals with Fed Up Kitchen's Black Friday BOGO sale. Offer ends Monday, December 4th. Place your order online now at fedupkitchen.com. Eat better, feel better, live better with Fed Up Kitchen. fedupkitchen.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Utah's public universities going to court to keep athletes' NIL contracts private. Second, opponents of Utah's new state flag are making another effort to get that issue on the ballot. And third, Pfizer giving up on developing a new weight loss drug that's a pill instead of an injection. Right now, we're at 36 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. She is truly a person for all seasons, possessing those unique qualities of temperament, fairness, intellectual capacity, and devotion to the public good, which have characterized the 101 brethren who have preceded her.
That was an important announcement from Ronald Reagan nominating Sandra Day O'Connor. As he noted, there were just brethren before her, and she became the first woman on the Supreme Court of the United States. And in making that announcement, of course, everything began to change. And if you missed our previous conversation, we had Judge Thomas Griffith joining us, a retired D.C. Circuit Court judge, deep ties to the state of Utah, and great connections with former Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. Gave us some terrific perspective. You want to go check that out at kslpodcast.com later this afternoon, and then just hit Inside Sources. You can see all the segments of the show every day get posted there, so you can go back and re-listen to some of those things that you might have missed or just caught partially as you're driving along. But as we continue to reflect on the life and legacy of Sandra Day O'Connor, I actually want to go to her own words. Always an important place to go on days like today. Here's something that she said after she was nominated. This was July of 1981.
I can only say that I will approach it with care and effort and do the best job that I possibly can do. And I've always tried to do that with any position that I've held.
So she was a woman and a woman of the West that really changed the makeup of the court, and her influence, of course, was felt for decades that followed. In 2004, on a CBS 60 Minutes interview, she reflected on that historic moment when President Reagan nominated her as the first woman to the Supreme Court.
It had an incredible ripple effect of making opportunities become available for women. It was just a remarkable transformation. And I really think he deserves an enormous amount of credit for making that happen in this country. A woman had never held a position at that level of our government. And it was a signal that it was all right that women could be in such positions, that they could do well in such positions. And so opportunities at every level, not just for lawyers and judges, but across the spectrum, opened for women.
That was an important historic moment when President Reagan made that announcement, that nomination of Sandra Day O'Connor. I just keep going back today, and I just keep chuckling over the fact that she finished third in her class at Stanford. And despite finishing third in her class, graduating law school, she was not offered a single position as a lawyer in a law firm. That's unfathomable to me. That you could have someone who finished at the top of the class and not have any job opportunities other than one job to be a law secretary. And how things have changed since then. And in her own words, as she said, President Reagan should get credit for the ripple effect that followed, and not just for lawyers, not just for judges, but in so many other areas, as she really led the way. And, of course, you think of the other extraordinary women of the Supreme Court beyond Justice O'Connor. Of course, you had Justice Ginsburg, who passed away a few years ago, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and then, of course, most recently, the most recent addition to the Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, all following in that legacy and following in those footsteps. Finally, one other component from Justice Sandra Day O'Connor herself in another interview, she talked about some of the tough legal decisions that she had to make on the court, decisions that have to be made not with popularity, but sometimes in opposition to things that the public might want.
You have to answer the question, like it or not, and the questions deserve a valid legal response, even if the response isn't one that will be easily understood. You have an obligation as a member of the court to do what you are bound to do under federal law, even if it isn't an attractive resolution from a public standpoint.
That it wasn't about popularity. And I think we've seen that in far too many court cases where the court of public opinion becomes an important sway. That's not the way it was designed by the founders. And again, I think it was a unique component to Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. She understood the branches of government, the separation of powers that was so important. And I just want to conclude going back both to her focus on civic education and how passionate she was to make sure that the rising generation understood civic virtue, civic engagement, and civil discourse, and how crucial that is for the country, and not just for the judiciary branch, and not just for the executive branch, and not just for the legislative branch, but for we the people, for all of us to do that. And she lived it. She understood the principles, and she lived the principles. And perhaps I think the principle she lived greatest was that she recognized the fallacy of the irreplaceable and recognized when it was time for her to step aside. And she stepped aside not because she was done, but because she had another duty, and that was to care for her ailing husband, who was her partner through all of those years, and an important legacy there as well. Sandra Day O'Connor, former Justice of the Supreme Court, passing away at age 93. Well, that wraps it up for us on Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. Thank you for joining us. I am Boyd Matheson. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
Listen at home on any smart speaker.
And in your car at 102.7 FM.